real quickly, let's go through North Carolina, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and then get to some of these hoaxes and some of these things that should be questioned.
Where do you want to start?
I want to start North Carolina quickly.
North Carolina, I think, is going to be a Donald Trump state. I guess they're worried about calling it because there could be, some really large Democratic areas that could make up this difference. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Trump is going to win North Carolina. I think that's a 90-10 sort of situation for Trump.
Wisconsin, tight race within 1%. It's a recount state.
It is a recount state.
Yeah.
No more votes to count there. Trump is down by about 20,000. The last time they did a recount, they did 2 recounts. Scott Walker, the former governor, pointed this out. They did 2 recounts when he was there. When they did full state recounts, they only overturned about 300 votes or less in both of them. So it's unlikely they'd be able to change that outcome.
Have you looked at the 2 cities that are showing a 90% turnout for a voter?
Yeah. So go ahead, Pat. You had some.
Have you looked at the wards in Milwaukee that show 202% turnout for voters?
So what it seems like they're doing, right? Now, Wisconsin is
cheating. That's what it seems like.
Right.
What they're doing is cheating.
It does seem that way.
They're doing it. They're factoring turnout based on registered voters, which is not how you factor turnout. That's not the correct way to calculate that number. And look, a lot of the people making this claim know that. Okay. The other part is because you say like turnout is how many people could vote and how many people turned out. You don't divide it. The correct denominator is not registered voters, especially in a state, which is the case in some of these situations, where you can register the day of. So you're adding actual new registered.
I think
is that the case in Milwaukee?
I think in Milwaukee
it is. I think Wisconsin is one of those.
Okay,
states.
so they may have been registered.
Right, they may have, then. Right, and it's also like there's a lot of weirdness with this election in that, like for example, people in normally you'd say like people who go to college, right, are going to vote at their college. And they're going to have huge margins for the left, right? Mm-hmm. What's happening in some of these situations is none of the kids are at college right now, right? Because none of them, that's all canceled, and they're all doing it from home. So it's dispersing this vote into different places around the state.
Okay, so just help me out with 90%. That is the 90% voter turnout. That's a very patriotic city.
But again, 90% is not the correct number. A turnout, right, is not how you. That's not how you calculate that.
I got
For example, there are more now. Who won Texas? Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
More votes cast than there were more votes cast in early voting than the entire election last time.
Right.
So there's lots of this stuff going around. To be able to say that it is not crazy in certain areas to have numbers like that, especially when you manipulate the number and change the denominator, which is what they're trying to make the best argument possible. It is not proof of fraud, but again, to be clear on this, Donald Trump's campaign should be investigating every single one of these things. And look, you'll know the truth if Donald Trump's campaign starts filing things on these. If they actually believe these claims, there will be new lawsuits filed on all of these things. So far, they're not filing suits on this, but they will.
Why do you want Joe Biden to win so badly?
I don't. I want him to lose.
You noticed? What is it with this guy?
I'm just saying that, look, some of these arguments are really good. Some of them are not so good.
Yeah. I will tell you this, that this is not at least we did hold on, or looks like we did hold on to the Senate. That's a very good thing. It was the largest voter turnout in American history. But what's crazy is, and I'm going to talk about this later, there are 2 Americas. I'm not convinced that everybody who voted for Joe Biden didn't know what they were voting for. I'm not willing to say, they didn't know.
Yeah, they did. I think most of them did.
Most of them did. Mm-hmm. But half of America believes that we should go in this unconstitutional and socialist Marxist sort of way. I'm not with that, but neither are a record number of Americans.
Yeah, and pointing to the fraud thing is an interesting part of that too. And that, look, do I think there was some fraud? Yes. In fact, every election has some fraud. Do I think that people really are trying to do this and turn this election? Of course, and it needs to be investigated. But it would be a weird way to attempt fraud by allowing the Republicans to keep the Senate and to expand or to get more seats in the House. and win a lot of the governor races that were key.
Well, you have to make it look legitimate.
And maybe that's it. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see.
Quite honestly, I am focused on what comes next and what's happening on the streets with Antifa. Because that is not. I think we are going to enter the season of assassinations from Antifa or any of these Marxist radical groups. They are already talking about it, and they are not going to be happy with Joe Biden.
They're already out there protesting. They're saying the vote is over, but the fight begins.
Yeah, the fight begins.
Yeah.
The fight begins.
Amazing. I think he's going to win North Carolina. I don't think Wisconsin's going to come around.
And Michigan?
Michigan, I think he's going to lose. I think it was at the correct call. The margin. Now there's all sorts of shadiness.
Yeah, let me just play one here. Here's a video of a guy who is counting the vote in Detroit. Listen to the narration of this.
I'm wondering what's going on here.
It's an observer looking at
dude has
the
a
vote
fit
count.
about something.
The guy is counting, and then he's like, he's pissed at a ballot.
And then flips off a ballot.
Okay.
And then crumples it up.
He's talking to the ballot. He might be crazy. He crumples it up and throws it.
That's not voter fraud. I don't know what is.
Well,
it's hard to tell what's going on there, but it does not look good.
Let me help you out on one thing to give you a little bit of hope. Now, we're going to talk to Rudy Giuliani and find out what they are actually filing in the courts of law, what they say is going on, because that has to be fought. Every legal battle has to be fought. But let me tell you that I think, I said this to Megyn Kelly last night. She's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Obviously not a Star Wars fan. I said, I think Donald Trump may turn out to be an Obi-Wan Kenobi. Strike me down and you'll make me more powerful. There is a new coalition, and it's not around the GOP. And it's really not even around Donald Trump. It's around someone who is unafraid, and willing to stand up. And I think there are millions of Americans, well, it was proven, millions of Americans who feel this way. They've had enough, and they're not afraid anymore. And I think Donald Trump, I think the reason why you're seeing Trump treated poorly on Fox and Donald Trump treating Fox poorly is that I think he's going to leave and he'll start his own cable network. He'll go right head to head on cable TV, I believe. And when he does, the millions are going to flock to watch it. And it could be a final death nail into the media, and that'll drive them out of their minds.
First of all, you're just speculating if he loses, which is not certain at this point, to be clear. However,
but he's not going away.
Let's be honest about this.
If he loses, he's not going away.
I thought about this yesterday. Tell me this is not true. You want to talk about blowing the minds of the media? If there is a primary poll for 2024, who leads it?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Is there any incentive for Donald Trump, even if he's not going to run in 2024, to say he's not going to run in 2024?
No, none.
The only incentive is to keep that alive because it puts you in the middle of every news cycle, especially if you're launching a media venue. And I think, honestly, there's a good chance that Trump would want to run again. And people are like, well, he might be 80. So Joe Biden is going to be even older if he's still president in 4 years. And again, that's if this happens. Can I give you this breakdown here real quick?
Quickly. Yeah.
5 states. Trump needs to win 4 of them. Okay. I consider Georgia and Arizona about a 50-50 shot. Okay. Either one of those, he could win, he could lose. North Carolina, I think, is 90-10 Trump. I think he's going to win North Carolina. Nevada, I think, is probably more like 25-75. I don't think he's going to win Nevada, but it's possible. The big one's Pennsylvania, which I think is probably more like 30-70 as I look at it right now. Everything I described here, the betting markets are a little more pessimistic than I am, except for North Carolina, which they would agree with the analysis, about 90% chance of Trump to win. But I mean, these are not like lottery ticket Hail Marys we're talking about here.
Right. I would like to say, so you're saying there's a chance.
But it's better than
it's better than
it's
that.
better than Jim Carrey trying to get the girl in Dumb and Dumber. It's
Right.
better than that. It's just that things need to break the right way. And the campaign is all over this stuff to make sure it doesn't break the wrong way because of fraud. And that has to be, we have to have faith in this outcome. And that's why all of these things need to be investigated.